Hello and welcome back to my channel. I would like to start off by wishing everyone a happy new year, and I hope this year brings you success in your endeavors. Now, I would like to start off by welcoming new listeners to my channel as well. So, if you're watching this as a video podcast, you can see that I'm on my channel, so on my website. So if you're not listening to this as a video podcast but as an audio one, if you search for couchpotato708.wixsite.com, so that's Wixsite as in WIXSITE.com, / that medic couch potato, you'll be able to find my channel. So I'm a current medical student studying in Poland. I make blog posts and podcasts on things that I find of interest that might be useful for those, especially if you're wanting to apply for medical school either in Poland or in the UK. I got a couple of episodes up on there as well, and blog posts. You can find me on Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and also Google Podcast. If you search for my channel at That Medic Couch Potato, you can view them on there. I'm also on YouTube, so all of my video and audio podcasts have been uploaded onto YouTube. My audio podcasts don't actually have any videos; it's just a screen grab of my logo. But you can obviously still listen to it if you don't want to watch a video. But I've also been uploading my video podcast I've done so far, which to be honest has only been 2 with this one. So you can find it on there. I also have some YouTube shorts as well, that are also available on Instagram, and also TikTok. So I also have Instagram, like I said, on TikTok as well as Twitter. So you can find me on those as well if you search for That Medic Couch Potato. Obviously, I will leave all the links out as well in the description box so you can access them through those. If you don't want to, if you missed what I've been saying. If you also want to get in touch with me via email, my email is couchpotato708 gmail.com. Do email me if you're interested in applying for medical school, and if you want to get some advice, or if you want me to read personal statement reviews as well. So I can read your personal statement and I can give you a feedback to it. That's actually free. And I'm also a registered associate nutritionist, due to my master's being in nutrition. So if you're worried about your health and you want someone to discuss your health needs, do get in touch as well, and when we can set up one-to-one appointment, you can email me, and I will get in touch. I apologize for the background noise, it's just my heater being weird. I'm recording this in my dormitory room, so you'll be able to hear all sorts of background noises, like plane landing, as I don't live too far from my airport, as well as noise from my flatmates as well in the background. So I do apologize for it in advance. This again, if you're on my video podcast, this is just what my Apple podcast looks like. So you can listen to all of my episodes if you wanted to. I was consistent last year in the fact that I was releasing videos mostly once a week, but it's lapsed since being our medical school is pretty busy. University is busy anyway, as you may know. So I do apologize for being a bit lax with uploads, but I will do my best this year. So back to my history musings episode for this week. So if you listened to my channel last year as well, so in December 2022, you'll notice that I actually did a brief introduction to my channel and about the city of Chester as well. So history is like a passion that I have outside of medicine. So I started this video podcast where I just explore cities, villages, and towns that I visited so far that I find interesting. And I do so by using Google Maps. So I do street views of places I think are worth visiting. So you can explore it with me if you're watching this video, or even if you're listening to it as an audio guide. You can obviously check out the city on the Maps application, either on your phone or on your tablet or on your iPhone, or on like the Ordnance Survey maps as well. So the first city I actually looked at on my episode was the city of Chester. Like I said, it's in the northwest of England. It's a cathedral city and county town of Cheshire. And the grid reference for it, so on the Ordnance Survey grid reference, it's the SJ405665. So the Ordnance Survey grid reference again is the SJ405665. That's for Chester. So the Ordnance Survey National Grid Reference System is just a geographical grid reference that's used in the UK. And it's usually used by like maps, and a lot of people use it to hike and cycle. So it's pretty cool, cool map. So today's episode will be actually focused on Keele, which is a village and a civil parish in the borough of Newcastle under Lyme. So a civil parish it just means it's a type of administrative parish that's used for local government. So many years ago, civil parishes historically played a role in both the secular and religious administrative roles, but now due to the Local Government Act in 1894, it's pretty much separate. So you have a separate parish to just do all the administration, and then you have like the religious aspect separate. If you need to like talk to your local priest, for example, about things that you might want to talk to them about, so like baptism, funerals, weddings, etc. So the Local Government Act in 1894 established elected parish councils. So now most people would elect their local councillors who have their best interest in heart. So a civil parish usually can have like a different size. So you can have a couple of hundred inhabitants living in a rural area, and you can go up to like a large town with a population in the tens of thousands. So the borough, like I said, it's actually in the Keele's actually in the borough of Newcastle under Lyme. So that's the local government district, and it covers the town of Newcastle under Lyme, where the main council space. That's the main council that deals with any problems in the borough. And then you also have it also includes the towns of Kidsgrove, villages of Silverdale, Chesterton, Madley, Halmerand, Keele, and Audley. So these places I just mentioned, they form the borough of Newcastle and Lyme, and it's the local government district as well. In these districts, they're usually responsible for local planning, building control, local roads, environmental health, markets, fair, refuse collection, so your bin collection, council housing, recycling, cemeteries, and leisure parks, and also for tourism as well. And usually you have the county council, so county for Keele's the Staffordshire, and those are responsible for running more larger services like education, social services, libraries, main roads and public transport, fire services, waste disposal, trading standards, and strategic planning. So the county council for Keele is actually Staffordshire. And the region that it's in is the West Midlands. So let me West Midlands of England. So let me just zoom out here. So Keele, if you can see the red dot on the map, the grid reference for the village is actually SJ817450. So SJ817450, and it's actually the grid reference for the local university, Keele University, that forms pretty much most of Keele. You can also find the grid services for the Keele service, which is at SJ806440. So SJ806440, and this is the grid reference to the Keele motorway services on the M6. So if you're thinking of doing a road trip on the M6, so it kind of starts around the Birmingham area and does go all the way up into uh, Scotland. So it goes past the Lake District and also Yorkshire Dales and also through Manchester, up like outskirts of Manchester, and eventually it forms the A74 once it hits Scotland, and once it hits Glasgow, it's the M74. So very long motorway service. So Keele is actually approximately 3 miles or 5 kilometers west of Newcastle under Lyme. Now, you might be wondering, why is there a place called Newcastle under Lyme? You might be confusing it to Newcastle upon Tyne, especially if you're not from the Staffordshire area. So Newcastle upon Tyne is the main Newcastle that a lot of people know in the UK, due to the fact that it has a university, a football team, Newcastle United, and also it's popular for major shipbuilding as well. And it's actually, in the northeast of England, like I said, quite. It's a city that faces the North Sea, and it's on the River Tyne, hence why it's called Upon Tyne. So Newcastle under Lyme, that's in Staffordshire, and it's the local market town that's close to Keele, and obviously also where the borough is. So market town just means that Newcastle under Lyme has the right from the Royal Charter to hold a regular market, usually around 2 to 3 times a week, perhaps more. So in these markets, usually you just find things like groceries, watchmakers, for example, how people selling like household items as well, things like that. So you can find most things that you need to find there in the markets. So back to Newcastle under Lyme. The reason it's called Newcastle, it was due to the fact that there was a mid 12th century motte and bailey castle that was built when King Stephen granted lands in the area to Ranulph de Gernon, who was the Earl of Chester at that time. So the Earl was given the lands because he supported the king during the civil war period known as the Anarchy. And the Anarchy was civil war in England and Normandy between 1138 and 1153. It was due to a war of succession that started with the accidental death of William Adelin, who was the only legitimate son of King Henry I of England, who drowned in the sinking of the White Ship in 1120. So there was a lot of like a succession crisis that started there, and hence why there was a war. So the underlying aspect might refer to the Lyme Brook. So that's a tributary stream of River Trent. So if I was to zoom in here, if you can see it on the map, it's a bit better on Google Maps. So Lyme Brook is like I said, a tributary stream of the River Trent, and it flows through Newcastle under Lyme and also the outlying areas of Stoke-on-Trent. So if I was to zoom out slightly, you'll notice this red dotted line. So that's the on Google. If you can follow my cursor, it'll be great. If you can see it, that's actually the red dotted line is the border of Newcastle and Lyme. So it's just showing you like how much area that Newcastle and Lyme has. And if I was to zoom in a bit more to the south, you can see the Lyme Brook actually going through the border and also actually going kind of outside the border as well into the nearby Stoke-on-Trent. So eventually, if you follow it south, like I am in the map here, sorry I'm going a bit fast, I just wanted to show that it actually ends up going into the River Trent. So the River Trent is actually the third longest river in the UK, and it goes through Stoke-on-Trent, also Stone, Rugby, Burton-upon-Trent, and also Nottingham as well, before joining the River Ouse. So that's one reason why Newcastle actually got its underlying name, because it's of the river of the tributary stream rather, Lyme Brook. But another reason why Newcastle under Lyme potentially got its name is due to the Forest of Lyme, which was a former elm and lime trees that used to exist in Cheshire, Staffordshire, and also parts of Derbyshire. So those are three counties or states that used to have this forest of lime. Um, and most of the trees that was in the forest of lime was actually elm trees, which are deciduous and semi-deciduous trees that comprise the flowering plant genus Ulmus, and that belongs to the plant family of Ulmaceae. So you can actually find them in quite a lot of different places. So places like North America, Eurasia, also in the Middle East, so like Lebanon to Israel, also into Indonesia as well. So pretty cool trees. The other trees that used to exist in this forest of lime is actually also lime trees, and they're not to be mistaken with the citrus lime trees that you know of. So this lime tree that I'm referring to is part of the genus Tilia. So that has about 30 species of trees or bushes that are mostly native to like the northern hemisphere. So in European species, you might know it as linden. However, for the North American species, it's known as basswood, or basswood rather. But in Britain and Ireland, for some reason, they're called lime trees, even though they're not citrusy. So that's like two reasons why Newcastle and Lyme got its name. The underlying aspect got its name. So back to Keele now. So Keele, the name Keele is actually from the old Anglo-Saxon Kai Hill word, which means cow hill. So in 2001, Keele had a population of 3,672 people. In 2011, that increased to 4,129, and in 2021, the census showed that the population had decreased to 2,886. So that's a change of minus 3.5% between 2011 and 2021. It has a area of 8.624 kilometers squared, so that gives it a population density of 334.6 kilometers squared. That was back in 2021. And the dialing code for Keele is 1782, with the postal code being SD5, so SD for Staffordshire. Most of Newcastle actually is also SD5 as well, with Keele being like 5 SD5 after it, so it's kind of more like the rural aspect of it. So there's reasoning behind why Keele actually decreased its population size to 2,886 in 2021, and why the population in 2011 was 4,129. Now, if you were to look at the map of Keele, you'll notice that most of the space is actually taken up by the university, Keele University. It's a pretty big area, and back in 2011, up until 2017, actually from the 1960s to 2017 or so, the university had an accommodation in Keele University. Sorry, in the village of Keele. So that accommodation was called the Hawthorns. Now that was, if you were to look at the map, and if you can find Keele Village Hall, the Hawthorns accommodation was actually opposite the village hall. So I will do a street view as we go along later on, and I'll show you what the university looked like. But now, if I was to show you the map view, you'll notice that most of the land that the university was on, I'm trying to show it on my on the map here, but you can't really see it. Most of the university land now is actually housing developers that bought the land in 2017. That was the reasoning why the population suddenly decreased, because at one point around maybe 600 to 700 students were living in the village in the Hawthorne's accommodation. I don't know the exact number that would have lived, the highest number that would have lived at that point. But if you're listening to this and if you're from the university, let me know if you know how many students lived in the Hawthorns, like the highest amount of students living in Hawthorns at one point. Please let me know in the chats. I estimated that when I went to university there, I lived in Hawthorns for 1 year. In my block, there was 25 of us. So the way it works in Keele with the accommodation is that each of the accommodation had blocks labeled A to Z. So there was 26 blocks in total, and each of those blocks, accommodation blocks, they had different amount of students living in there. So, for example, Block A might have had 16 students because they had the 4-bedroom flats, whereas L Block, for example, might have had 25 students because that's the maximum amount of people it could hold. Some people also shared their rooms for some time. So at one point, in the block that I lived in, there was 26 of us until a room became available on campus, and the student who was sharing, one of the students who was sharing, moved out. So it's yeah. So the number of students would differ based on the amount of blocks that were being in use, because I know some blocks were not being used due to health and safety reasons. So if you knew the exact number of the amount of students that lived at Hawthorns, like the highest number at one point, please let me know. So once the accommodation closed because the land was sold to housing developers, this is the reason why the population drastically decreased, by 3.5% in 2021 from 2011. So yeah, so that's just a bit about the accommodation. I will actually talk more about the university in my next episode because I feel like the history of the university needs more than just like this video because it's actually quite an interesting history. So apart from the university, the village is also recognized for its position next to the motorway services. So like I said before, Keele is near the M6 motorway services, and if you're doing a journey from Birmingham to Manchester by motorway, by driving rather, you will most likely go through the M6. If you're driving, obviously, if you're taking the train, you would not go there. And this motorway is kind of long, and like I said, it does go past the Yorkshire Dales and the Lake District National Park, and it does go all the way into Glasgow, but in Scotland, but obviously with a different motorway name, A74 and then M74. So in a lot of the UK motorways, there's always service stations, and they, you stop them, you stop your vehicle there to refuel your vehicles, also to get food. A lot of the food that they serve there is actually kind of junk food, so you find KFCs, McDonald's, Burger King. You might also find like Starbucks, Greggs as well, especially if we're in the north. So Greggs is a pastry shop in the UK. 10/10 recommend. Very nice. And some of them, like the one in Keele as well, they have a overpass that you can use to cross between the southbound and the northbound. So as you can actually see it on the map here, and it's just like an overpass that you can cross. Let me see if I can do a screen view of it to show you. Oh yeah, it looks a bit like that. And it's for pedestrians to like cross. Oh, sorry, it's this bit here. So it's like pedestrians can cross over it without having to like go on the road, which you can't actually go on the road because of the motorway service. So like I said, you can also use it to refill your cars a lot. Then they'll also have along with like petrol and diesel, they also have the charging ports for electric cars. So your Tesla charging ports, as well as like other electric ones as well. So yeah, but I believe the Keele one's actually kind of small, and also kind of old, so a lot of people complain about it. So I'm not sure why, but like I've never really had to use it because when I came to Keele, I didn't use the Keele Services. I'd usually use the ones before it. Um, so yeah, back to the village again. So in the Middle Ages, Keele was actually also a major route from the northwest to London for pack horses and caravans. So the nearest train station to Keele, so Keele used to actually have a train station, but that's closed now. But the nearest like big train station to Keele is Stoke-on-Trent train station, and it's actually only one bus journey from Keele to Stoke-on-Trent. It takes about 45 minutes, maybe more, maybe less, depending on traffic. And it's the train station's really close to the Staffordshire University as well, like opposite it. In fact, and and from that station, Stoke Station, you can take a straight train to London Euston. I think it takes around 2 hours or so. And you can also get the train to Manchester. It takes about 40 or so minutes to 1 hour, depending on whether you take the slow train or the fast train. Slow train takes around 1 hour, fast train's about 40 minutes. You can also get the direct train from Stoke-on-Trent to Birmingham as well, and it takes around 1 hour. Driving to Manchester also takes around 1 hour. Birmingham just a bit more. There were students. So I did my first degree, Natural Sciences, actually in Keele. So I had classmates who drove from Manchester and to Birmingham regularly, and also took the train as well. So it's a train, and then the bus from the train station would take you, 2 hours nearly, I would say. Um, this is worth investing in a car or perhaps moving more closer towards the university, because the journey is pretty long, but manageable. There's also students I know who actually would drive from Coventry to Keele as well. Also some that took the train from London to Keele, especially more in the third year because their study hours are a bit less. Wouldn't recommend that either. You will be tired, but it's up to you. Um, so yeah, so apart from the fact that it has some good transport links, Keele was actually also owned at one point by the Knights Templars and the Knights Hospitalis. So back in 1168 or 1169, Keele was granted to the Knights Templars by King Henry II. And it became known as the Preceptory, so that's the headquarters of the Order of the Knights Templars. And it was owned by the Knights Templars, like I said, from 1168 to the point that they were suppressed in the early 14th century. So their land also increased sometime in 1185 when Henry gave more land to the knights, so the lands of Onnerley, and at one point they were in 1308 the Knights Templar were collecting rents from property held in Newcastle on the Lyme, Onnerley, Stanton, and Nantwich, and Keele as well. So a preceptory just means, like I said, like the headquarters of the order, or the preceptor is a teacher who is responsible for upholding a certain law or tradition known as the precept. So Knights Templars, they were the poor soldiers, poor fellow soldiers of Christ under the Temple of Solomon, or also known as the Order of Solomon's Temple, or the Knights Templar. And they were a Catholic military order, so they had Keele as like one of the headquarters for like teaching about, I'm guessing, Catholic laws and traditions. So they were a Catholic military order in in the Middle Ages. They were founded in 1119, with their headquarters being in the Temple Mount of Jerusalem, and their main like one of the main things that they did was to during the Crusades, which was like this holy war that was to defend Jerusalem from like foreign, specifically non-Christian invaders. So they were officially endorsed by the Roman Catholic Order. The Templars actually became a charity throughout like the uh, Christianity, European Christianity areas. and they grew in membership and power pretty quickly. Sorry. And they were distinctive with their white mantles with a red cross. So that's how we know they were the Knights Templars, and they were like one of the most feared and skilled fighting units on the Crusades. So the non-combatants of the order was about 90% or so, and they were also responsible for maintaining like the finances in that area throughout Christendom. So they started building techniques that was like some of the early form of banking in Europe, and they ended up building quite a lot of like network of commanderies, I think nearly 1,000, and fortifications across Europe and the Holy Land as well. So was potentially one of the first multinational corporation in Europe, or perhaps the world as well. However, over time, they became unable to secure their holdings in Jerusalem, so the Holy Land, and support started fading. There was a rumor that went around saying that the Knights Templars, they had a secret initiation ceremony that started to create a bit of distrust. And one of the kings of France, King Philip IV, he was in debt to the order, so he decided to take advantage of the situation. And in 1307, he pressured the Pope Clement to have a lot of the order members in France executed, tortured to give false confessions, and then burned to the stake. And then in 1312, the Pope Clement V, he ended up disbanding the order as well. So back in the UK, when the order was starting to be disbanded, the Pope at that time, Pope Clement V in 1307, he issued a papal bull. So along with the French monarchs, French king at that time, King Philip IV, the other monarchs in Europe as well, they started to arrest the members of the Templar Order. So what the English crown did was they seized the property of the Knights Templar, which included the Keele Preceptory, and the land initially was claimed by Thomas II, Earl of Lancaster, on the behalf of the crown, as he was the Lord of Newcastle on the Lyme at that time. However, in 1322, he was executed, and the Keele Preceptory went back to the crown, and it was actually given to the Knights Hospitaller in 1342, and they ended up combining it with their commandery in Halston, Shropshire. So the Knights Hospitaller, they were like the rivals of the Knights Templar. Their full name is the Order of Knights of the Hospital of Saint John of Jerusalem, and I think they were initially established. They rose to prominence in the early 12th century, and back in 11th century, some merchants from Amalfi, Italy, they founded a hospital in Jerusalem, and they dedicated it to John the Baptist, who was part of the Christian law, to provide care for sick, the poor, or injured pilgrims who were making their way to the Holy Land. So basically, when there was a conquest of Jerusalem in 1099, a group of Crusades ended up forming a religious order to support the hospital, and these later became known as the Hospitallers. So they managed to evolve. Knights Hospitallers managed to evolve in different roles throughout history, and I think they're still existing now. However, they did actually lose control of Knights of Keele as well when their order was dissolved in 1540 in England, and their property was seized again by the crown. So unfortunately in Keele, not much. You can't really find much evidence of the Knights Templars and the Knights Hospitallers. So if you were to zoom in on Keele again, especially on the Quarry Bank Road, which is at the intersection between 3 Mile Lane and Keele Road. So Quarry Bank Road is the road that leads into the primary school, so St John's CAV Primary School. And if you go further down, you'll notice, if you're doing an eagle eye view, you'll notice the Knight's Croft on the right hand side, and that was actually named after the knight's presence. So there's like a little lane that, a dead end lane that goes into this bunch of houses. So the church as well, St. John the Baptist Church, was also named, the parish church rather, was named after the patron saint of the Hospitallers, St. John the Baptist. And apparently, it's still believed that one of the stained glasses of the church still contains elements of surviving early medieval glass. I've not actually been able to go inside the church yet, so I've not seen the stained glass. But if you do get a chance to go, do check it out as well. It's a very nice church, especially from the outside. I'm sure the inside is also very, very nice. And then the university as well, it has an accommodation called Holy Cross, and it's actually shaped in a Templar cross to commemorate the Knights Templars. Uh, yeah, it's Knights Templars, and there's also by the bypass. Let me just find the bypass. That has a iron sculpture, and this bypass was actually built in 1992 between Newcastle under Lyme and Madley, which is like another area in here. So that's the A525 bypass, and it was built to improve circulation in the village, especially traffic circulation. And if I was to do street view here, just by Keele Road, so Keele Road's the little road that leads into the village from the A525. By the road, there's actually this iron sculptures that was built to commemorate the arrival of the knights to Keele. So you can actually walk and have a look. If you're watching this on the audio bit, I do actually have, I'm showing the street view now on the video section, so either you can find a picture of it, or you can Google it up as well, or you can switch to the audio version. But yeah, this is the iron sculpture that was built to commemorate the presence of the knights in Keele. So yeah, so let me actually start the street view here just to like show you some of the places that I mentioned. So here I'm on the A525 at the minute, and I'm on the Keele near the Keele Road entrance. So with the iron sculptures on the right here, and there's also a golf course in front of the A525, but that's actually kind of hidden by all the foliage. So if we were to go down this Keele Road, part of the university actually does come onto the onto the left side. If I was to go down a bit more, you can see it. It's currently covered by a lot of trees. But on the left, you can just see here is the sports grounds for the university. Unfortunately, they can't really be accessed like this. You can actually walk on this Keele Road. There is pavement only on one side, so you'll have to stick to one side as well. And it does follow quite a lot of the area of the university is actually pretty big as well. I think around 617 acres or so. But like I said, I will explain more about it in my next episode, as I feel that the university history needs more of a video. So as we go down this road, on the right, the church, so St. John the Church, St. John the Church, Baptist Church, right, does come into the view. Again, it's covered pretty well by the foliage. Even though this street view was taken in March 2021, some trees still have most of their foliage as they look like evergreen. But here you can see a bit of the church here with the cemetery as well. So quite an impressive parish church, though it is a bit small, uh, because Keele obviously is a small village, so the church is small. And I don't know how often do they do services there, but I know on the Wednesday evenings the church bells usually ring out as well. So yeah, well worth a visit if you have the chance to go. On the right here is just like some more land, and this path that you see in the distance, it does lead to the university, and that was the walking route that I used to take whenever I have to go in, whenever I lived in Hawthorns and I have to go into the university. A free bus service is also actually provided for students living in Hawthorns, so we were able to use up to enter the bus and go all the way up to the top of the university, to the end of the university buildings, which was the medical school. Um, so yeah, so let me just show you the Hawthorns as well, and I'll have to come back again to the intersection to explain more about the history of the buildings. So if I just come here, so this road to the right is the Church Road, or Church Bank, rather, I believe. Um, I think that's what I was supposed to say. And it's a T junction, so it's just, sorry, not T junction, it's a dead end, not T junction. Apologies for that. And if you were to go up this road, it is actually pretty. It's a bit of a steep climb, but if you're on a wheelchair, for example, it is doable. Just watch out for the cobbled pavement as you come up, and that leads you into the church. If you're on a crutches as well, it's an easy. It's not a hard climb, um, and it's well suited for wheelchair users as well. You can go up to the church and see what times they're open and sit in for service as well if you're interested. So it does go through a residential area, though, however, so you just have to be a bit quiet as well, I suppose. Though they are well used to all the partying habits of the students when Hawthorns was um, still a university accommodation, and also the fact that there's a local primary school, St John CRV primary school. So CRV just means Church of England. So this school is affiliated with the Church of England. So it is a primary school aged, I think, from kids from possibly 5 until definitely age 11. So a lot of the university staff members, they actually used to leave their kids in the school because of how close it is to the university. Um, so that also generates noise. So I would say the residents have done well in keeping up with the noise from both the school and the university accommodation. So on my left here, I'm just looking at the university building. So this is one of the car parks that was present when the university Hawthorns was accommodation Hawthorns are still here. And this, if you see the green green and white sign to the foliage here, that was the local convenience shop. Kind of overpriced, but it had everything that you needed, so like milk and bread and etc. So very convenient for both the students and also for the villagers alike as well. But if you wanted to do your bigger shopping, grocery shopping, clothes shopping, you will actually go into the local, into Newcastle under Lyme, because that's where you need it. The accommodation also actually had a restaurant that served both breakfast and lunch. The food was pretty decent, hot food. I think they had soup as well. And they also had a bar that you can rent out. And the space was kind of big enough to host like pub quizzes and like some discos as well. So it was a shame that the university didn't sell the land in the end, because even though it was a bit further away from the university, you had a nice village feel to it, and I really enjoyed living there, even if it was a lot of people in my dormitory. Um, I did enjoy living there as well. And they also had a lot more car parking space, which is convenient if you had a car and you needed to go, you know, go for placements and for shopping and stuff. So further down the road brings you to the Knight's Croft, which is the little lane that's named after the knights. It's just full filled with little bungalows and very quaint quaint area to live in as well. It's a very quiet neighborhood, I would say. The only time it was loud was when the university was in swing. Obviously not so much these days, and also when the school was on full swing as well. So again, opposite the Knight's Croft Lane, you can actually see some of the university buildings. So this building here, I think, was actually one of the 4-bedroom flats that I briefly mentioned. So on each floor, you would have 2 flats containing 4-bedroom flats, so 16 overall. Um, and some of the bigger flats, let me just go a bit further on, were, sorry, some bigger blocks. They were usually like 3 floors. So this is, I'm looking at one of the blocks here. Let me just go back. So this is the block that I lived in, L block. It was 3 floors long, and on the ground floor you had the rooms and also the bathroom as well. On the middle floor, again, more rooms and the kitchen, which was actually kind of small for all 25 hours. It was in a bit of a, it was kind of in a kind of U shape with like 4 fridges, and you end up having to share like the fridge and freezer space. So not nice, but you know, it's manageable. Student life, I suppose. And on the top floor was houses, rooms for 10 of us, so all 10 girls lived on the top floor, and we had our own bathroom as well, a shower room, and then there's also a toilet, and also a bathtub. So this set of buildings were actually built, I think, in the 60s. So they some of the accommodation had bathtubs as well. I remember even when I lived in the other accommodation in Horwood, they also had bathtubs, but that particular one didn't have windows, so it was always a bit musty and smelled of mold. I don't think they have the bathtubs anymore, which is sad. I know some people used it. Um, Unfortunately, I can't go further into the Hawthorns, but this is what the university buildings look like. So kind of 1960s style buildings that the university built to accommodate a lot of people. Um, so yeah, so a nice quaint area to live in, but unfortunately it doesn't exist anymore because of the new housing that's come up. Unfortunately, I can't do a street view of the housings, but I can do an eagle eye view, and you can see how much it's changed. Perhaps in the future I can do like another video on when schools release the street view, or if I get a chance to go back to the university again, I will take more pictures and do like a street view, like a street video of my walk into the village from the university. So I think with the housing developers as well, more of the new there's been more like, street names as well being added in. So yeah, so back to the history of Keele again. So like I mentioned, you know, by 1500s, especially 1540, the property Keele went back to the crown again, as the nice hospitallers lost their uh, credibility in England. So in 1544, William Sneed ended up buying the manor at Keele from the crown, and he and his son, the first Ralph, they ended up building the first of the Sneed houses in Keele uh, in 1580. So that actually formed Keele Hall. Again, if you're looking at the audio, if you listen to my podcast on the audio, I suggest you search for Keele Hall. If you're looking at the video ones, I'm just showing you pictures of Keele Hall at the minute from different angles. So I'll explain more about the Keele Hall history actually in my next video, because it deserves more of a talk. But what you need to know in this video is that the Keele Hall, it was actually built from the centre of village, and it started to change the life of the village over time, because that was the first time that the village had a great house with the resident lord. And obviously it meant that there was a big change in the university. So the Sneed family, they actually made their money from farming, but they also did coal mining and iron mining, which was actually found on the estate, as well as like the estates around the areas like Silverdale as well had coal mine. So that's another village in near Keele. So many of the villagers they ended up working in the mines. Um, but they also had like other crafts, obviously, like blacksmiths, thatchers, and one of the most distinctive ones that Keele had in terms of craft was a frying pan maker who went by the name John Holland. So in 1673, he ended up converting a old corn mill into a forge and plate works, and at one point in the 1680s, Keele was the site of one of only two frying pan manufacturers. So over time, the Sneed families, like over the next 400 years or so, they ended up buying the land and dominated the village economy for many years. Um, and they ended up developing the village actually. So back in 1829, so we're moving forward to 1829 now from the 1500s. One of the Sneeds end up doing a lot of like landscaping and planting, which included a lot of like the pools that you can see, the lakes that you can see on in Keele. Again, I'll talk more about this in the future video because I think that's more with the history of the university. So in 1841, the next Ralph Sneed. So just another fact. So the Sneed family they ended up naming all of their firstborn son as Ralph, just to keep that name running through. So in 1841, another Ralph, he bought all of the land in Keele and ended up remodeling the village pretty much. So the Sneed Arms, if I was to go back onto the village again. So the Sneed Arms is the local pub. He built that. You can see pictures of it here. Again, very quaint. Very kind of old as well, and it's actually one of many Sneed pubs in the area. I think when I was there I noticed two Sneed arms, one more in Newcastle and one in Keele. But I think this one was like the one in Keele was like the original one that was built by Ralph Sneed. I think I could be wrong. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Um, and he also Ralph Sneed, the one that bought the land, all the village in 1841. He also ended up building the school, which is just down here. So this building here, I think, is the school, the old school. Um, if I zoom in here, you can actually see this monogram that says RS. That means that Ralph Sneed was actually built this school. So how I know it's a school is if I will go back to the street view again. One of the gates that leads into the school said the old school. It's called the old school. The audio podcast is showing a very hazy um, um, sign, the old school sign, but this is one that led into the school. Um, I don't know. I don't think it's still a school now. I think it's more of a private housing. Um, because I've seen people like use it as a private house. And obviously because you already have the primary school near there. I don't think it's used as an old school anymore. Maybe it's used as a bed and breakfast area. Possibly now these days. So maybe if it's still a bread and breakfast in the future, you can come and see Keele from there. But that's one of the school and the Keele Sneed Arms is like one of the two one of many buildings that were built by Keele by Ralph Sneed. And you can actually still see all of his Ralph Sneed's places. One of them is also a lodge, 5 lodges on the university building. One of them is here. Let me just do a street view. And that's where, like, the gamekeeper was lived. Again, you can see the monogram at the top here, Ralph Snead's monogram. Again, I'll show you all the 5 lodges once we're doing more on the University of Keele, as I feel like it's more part of the university history. So in the end, once the Sneeze bought the whole village, it became known as the as a closed village, because the as the sole owner, Ralph Sneed was actually able to change the village both physically and socially, because the villagers ended up being dependent on the estate for housing and work. As the Sneeds, they end up owning the inn, the school, the inn as in like the Sneed Arms. And they also appointed the clergy, hence becoming a closed village. So, by 1880s, or like by the 1900s, the estate was trying to decline slightly. In 1888, another Ralph, known as Sporting Ralph Sneed, he inherited the land. He was mostly interested in like sports, like fishing, shooting horses, and he ended up building a stud farm, and also like a racetrack as well to host horse track meets. Unfortunately, you can't really see much of it now, the horse track, because I think it was demolished when the M6 was built in the 1960s. Maybe there's still some remnants of it I've not been able to find when I went. But he also had like he also developed the lakes on the university for fishing, especially trout fishing. However, despite spending a lot of investment on the village, Sporting Ralph never really spent a lot of time here. So in the 1900s, especially from 1901 to 1910, he leased the land to various tenants. So the Grand Duke Michael of Russia, he looked after Keele from 1901 to 1910, which included a visit from the monarch in 1901 at that time, Edward the Seventh. So obviously this estate started declining, and during the Second World War, the estate was actually occupied by the British Army, also including some prisoner of wars. Um, American soldiers were also stationed in Kew, and they had around 100 temporary buildings and Nissen huts. And after the war, Keele Estate also became a camp for Polish servicemen and displaced people. You can actually still see some Nissen huts in the campus. I think they're called Nissen huts. But anyway, these days it's called in the bungalow. So let me just find it out. Here it is, Bungalow 77. That's part of the university um, um, campus now. So just to again, this is I'm on the street view. So if you're watching me on my video podcast, you'll see these 2 buildings that I'm pointing at. These 2 whitewashed buildings. So these are the huts that was used by the servicemen, the American servicemen, back in the 1940s. They are now the one on the front here is used as a teacher training center, and the one on the back is all offices now. So nothing really remains, even like in Keele Hall, nothing really remains of the Sneeds. Like there's no like remnants of them, like the beds, for example, left at Keele, because most of the stuff was actually auctioned off. So the reason for that is, as I said, like the estate was going downhill. So in 1948, the estate, including the village outlets, they were actually sold off by the remaining relatives of Ralph Sneed, who died by that point, and he had a lot of gambling debts. And also there was like high tax duties, so the land was actually sold for developing the new University College of North Staffordshire, which was founded in 1949 and started accepting students in 1950. and received the royal charter to become Keele University in 1962. Um, so not much. So with the auctions as well, that I said, all of the clothes that the people wore, from the people that lived in Keele House wore, all the beds, all the furniture, everything was auctioned off. And nowadays, if you do visit Keele Hall, it's mostly just officers inside there. However, it is also run as a events venue, so you can get married in Keele Hall or have conferences. But that's for the next episode when I talk more about the university. Um, so like I said, it's because it became like a college in 1950. Hawthorne's was actually one of the first accommodation building built in the village. I think that was in 1957. And like I said, it was discontinued in 2017. But students still use the village, especially for the Sneyd Arms, the pub that I just mentioned. People also come to the village hall as well. I remember going. Let me just show you Keele Village. It's just down here. It's like a local community center, just here. That has some rooms that you can rent out inside. It also has like some kitchens as well, so you can actually have like a small party if you wanted. And it's on a really quaint road as well. I don't want to go down too much of it because it's got private housing and there, but I recommend, like, in your spare time, if you're visiting Keele, just to walk down the area. Um, so that's Keele Village Hall just here. So a very small building, but like I said, the population is not particularly big, so it doesn't really need to be particularly big. It's actually opposite the new housing complex. It's from the maps, it's still being building, but this is what the new housing one looks like. So a big contrast to what the Keele accommodation looked like. So yeah, so much has changed in the village since I left, and definitely since like the first graduates left from Keele University. So that's it about Keele. So like I said, next week I'll be talking more about the university, and I will also mention things that I've missed out as well. As this video is already 1 hour long, I don't want to keep people up even longer. So thank you for listening to my podcast in the village of Keele. I'll see you next time when I talk more about the University of Keele. So I'll see you guys next time then. Goodbye.